No objections? I press the button. There you go. Thank you very much in the chat over there. So that's, I mean, you know, it's pretty powerful to see all these new bits and pieces coming through from Ignite. For those of you who've had the opportunity, I mean, it's weird hours, right? You're having to split your day in two halves, and yeah, it gets a bit challenging. So hopefully we'll be able to follow some of those reports after. Microsoft was really good. They gave all the MVPs a pre-release book, I guess you could call it. Massive NDA, and not allowed to talk about it, but after the event, then we've actually got everything collated together, which is quite nice. And so I'm looking forward to being able to talk a bit more about some of the stuff they're still doing. Right, so what I'm going to do is just fire up my slideshow over here. And what I need to do first of all is make sure it is actually a slideshow. So for those of you who are first-time visitors to, I guess, to the meetup as we've been doing it for the last, I think this is about year 4 now, which is a long time. And it's usually Andrew Morpeth and myself who've been leading this mostly from a who owns it perspective. And Andy's now working for Lucidity, so we've got him in there as a sponsor, and they help us out with bits and pieces. Of course, I work with Lexel Systems. We've got Julie and the fine folks at who are representing Yealink today, right? And that's good. Thanks, Lyndon, as well. And then I've got to always put Microsoft in there. They generally pay for our pizza, right? So I've just got some people coming in bits and pieces. I'll admit them. Very good. Okay. So, oh yeah, fast and furious, man. They're coming in quickly now. So one thing I want to make sure as we go along is that, firstly, you understand this is by no means some kind of presentation, which is basically, it's not something where I'm just going to tell you how things are, right? This is interactive. I want to hear from you. You'll be surprised, and Julie will, and Lyndon will attest to this as well. You'll be surprised how much product development and conceptual ideas come from audiences. In fact, all you have to do is look at all the features in Microsoft Teams and meetings. You quickly realize that that's come from an audience-driven request. So, you know, I'm always happy to hear your thoughts, the good, the bad, and the, I won't call it the ugly, I'll go in the me, you know, the good, the bad, and the me, because I guess that is what it is, eh? So just looking at our setup today, I'm just doing a little intro, and I'm kind of over time already, but that's okay. There's no hard and fast rules, and, you know, like I said, we kind of just want to get on and have a nice chat about things. There's a bunch of stuff here Julie is going to show us as far as Yealink's concerned. Very exciting stuff. My only regret is I didn't have enough time to cut all those beauties, but never mind. We shall make another pass. And then, of course, a little bit about news and updates. And, of course, I have even more things to share, perhaps some things you're aware of, maybe some things you're not aware of. I'll avoid any NDA bits, otherwise I'll be in trouble. And then, of course, we just spoke briefly, we had a mention about hybrid meetings and how they're such a challenge. And I'll tell you a little bit about some of the stuff happening behind the scenes to make hybrid meetings just so much, a little bit more easier, a little bit more powerful, a little bit more inclusive. And yeah, we'll have a chat about pizza and drinks, right? Yeah, we'll go with that, eh? Right. So, Julie, I'm going to give you the chance to start up. And I guess what I can, since I've just baked it into my Prezzo, I'll just slide through it, eh? You can just tell me when you want me to pack. Otherwise, I just.
Oh, okay. Well, I've added a couple.
Or you can share from your end. If you've got it on.
Is that all right?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Okay, so have you got just the logos come up?
We have it.
Fantastic. Yes. Yeah, this is not going to be death by PowerPoint. What, as Paul said, the value we get out of this is the interactions. The vendors, I think, just create an opportunity for discussion. And, you know, there's a lot of faces on this call that I've never met, so which is great. So I'm just going to jump into what Yealink's up to, and also Ingram Micro. So those that maybe aren't, well, hopefully you'll know about Ingram Micro, but we've got, you know, one of the main brands for Microsoft Teams endpoints. We've got Poly, Logitech, Jabra, and Yealink are our core brands. and 3 of those brands we've got exclusive distribution in New Zealand. So we get a fairly good view of what's happening in the marketplace, what's working, what's not working, and yeah, so that gives us some knowledge, I guess, about what's happening out there. For me personally, I've got a couple of brands at Ingram Micro. I look after Access 4, which we've got some slides later if anyone's interested about how you can offer that sort of a solution that's partly SIP and partly Teams if you're a smaller, perhaps reseller and trying to work out how you're going to do that. And also I've got Umbrava, which are busy lights. So the Ingram team, the Yealink team in New Zealand, there's 3 of us, 3 amazing people, just saying. So Yealink don't have anyone based in New Zealand. I would say they're more of an R&D company. So, you know, they're really good to get technical knowledge from, you know, via email. They're very quick to react to things. And one of the advantages I feel is you can sometimes talk or get communications with the people that are actually designing these things. You know, they are constantly in touch with Microsoft, you know, and you can speak to those people. So sometimes you can get inside information on what's happening. Something we've looked at, we ran in Auckland recently, was a tech workshop, a tech boot camp, and Linda and I have discussed bringing this down to Wellington as well. So if there is interest, let us know. Basically, we got a bunch of techs, put them in a room with about 14 Microsoft Teams devices and let them run wild. And it was actually really successful, I think, Lyndon. I mean, they interacted, they had questions. We had a MVP at the training sessions so that if it went down a Teams path, those questions could be answered. So it was good value. The other thing the I.M.H.O team is discussing is actually running our networking events in Wellington and Christchurch. Won't be every month like we do in Auckland, but I still think we need to run those. And what they are is a vendor sponsors the drinks. They get to speak for about 15 minutes, and then it's a networking event for all the attendees. And I know Paul will say, you know, I think the value is, you know, you get the likes of Mike Wells from Vodafone, we get you from Lexar, we get, you know, all these guys that are really onto it, and you can sit there and discuss with each other what you've found, what hasn't happened. And because you're techs and not salespeople, honestly, you're sometimes a bit more honest, I think, maybe. And there's really good interactions that happen there. So our plan is to bring that to Wellington and Christchurch. Haven't got months for that yet. We're still sorting that one out. So if you are interested in a tech workshop attending, you've got the agenda there that we ran, just let us know. And perhaps when we come down and do the I.M.H.O drinks, we'll run that in the same time frames. So what you want to hear about is, Yealink Teams phones, Teams headsets, all those sorts of things. So if you're looking at any of the Ignite announcements, Yealink is one of the prominent brands out there now for Microsoft Teams endpoints. It's a core business for them, and a lot of the innovations that are coming through tend to be Yealink and someone else. So it's really exciting, some of the products that are coming through. There's a whole lot of phones, new phones, and yes, I know some of you are like, why the hell would anyone buy a phone? But we still surprisingly sell a number of phones into the Microsoft Teams environment. The range has changed or is changing over the next month. There's now a USB phone which is on the market, and your price point, I don't know if you're resellers or end users that are in this call, but you know, you're looking at sort of $150 RRP-ish for a USB phone. We've also got the common area basic phone coming out, and again that retails at about 150. And then we've got the phones that have got the larger interfaces. One of the cool phones there, the 58, and I don't know, it's something everybody asks for, is a Teams decked phone. And I was on to Yealink last night. The reason there isn't one is because Microsoft haven't allowed the vendors to have one. So Yealink would very much like to do a Teams decked phone. Obviously they do decked, they do Teams. It would just be pretty logical to join it all together. But it's actually Microsoft that's stopping those Teams decked phones being in the market. So what we have got coming, and it'll be in country in about 2 weeks, it's a desk phone and the handset is Bluetooth. So you'll see there that it comes with a wired, a corded or a wireless handset, but it is only Bluetooth to the handset. You can answer calls, hang up calls from the handset. Again, it's Bluetooth, so the range is not going to be amazing, but it might suit some environments like small retail or banks or, places where they just need a cordless phone. So it's an option. It's not great, but it's an option. Any questions so far that anyone's got? Silence. You're either on the bourbons or it's going okay. Just USB devices. So, and all these core brands have got all these devices, and the smarts are coming from Microsoft. So, when you're looking at a Teams phone and, you might say, well, the Poly does it, or the audio code doesn't, or the Yealink one does. You'll find if you dig deep that we're all in the same boat within a few weeks of each other. We're all waiting for that new software that allows us to have these features. So the hardware kind of becomes less important maybe, because it is all Microsoft led what the features are that you're going to get. So Yealink's heading the market with some more USB cameras, the little 20. That's, after the Logitech low-end camera, you'll buy, or your retail on that's about 120, and a range of speakers as well.
See, Julie, on the USB phone, it was actually quite surprised nobody spotted it. That's the first USB phone in the market.
Correct.
And in actual fact, so it's actually quite a handy one. So if you've got people requiring, they want a phone, there's no need to cable an Ethernet cable to the desk and put an Ethernet phone. This phone will plug straight into the side of the laptop or the PC. The USB port takes over their Teams client and also can pair to their mobile. So they've got, we get quite a few requests for it, and obviously Microsoft must have been listening, and as Paul says, maybe they're listening in now, and they listen. Sorry, that's it. And people asked for that about a year or so back, and now we've got it. Yeah. And same with the lower cost phone there as well. What's that going to go for, Julie? The price of the
52.
The 52.
They're basically the same price. So the RRP is about 150, maybe 130, something like that. So it's the same price as what you're going to pay for a SIP phone. That's why I wonder what's going to happen, because you could get a SIP phone, which is going to be super dumb, at the same price as what you could get a Teams certified sort of common area phone. So you would have thought you're more likely to buy the Teams one if it's at the same price point. But maybe the SIP stuff's more for people that are migrating existing hardware. I don't know. So we'll get to see how it all settles.
Can you give us any intelligence on the SIP standard interface? So just to set the scene, the Teams interface on these phones is not actually SIP, which is the standard that everyone else uses. Microsoft have gone down a different track, but it looks like they're going to backtrack and support the SIP standard, so you'll be able to reuse existing handsets. And we're all waiting for Paul to tell us if he knows anything more.
Yeah. So what they've done, and this is official news now, is they've got a range of phones. There's a few. You have the Yealinks as well, the T40 range, and a few others as standard SIP builds that are supported as generic connections for SIP. And the main reason for that is just there are some organizations who've had massive investments in buying handsets, and now you're telling them to go to Teams, and they're having to hear that they got to chuck the phones in the bin and so on. So what Microsoft have done is they've created in 365 an interface that you can register those phones to, and they've gone one step further, and they've made it easy to manage so that you can actually manage it from your admin center. What is not known at the moment is how much are they going to charge for a license to do that.
Okay. It won't be a Microsoft license, of course. So you don't have won't be a 365 or an E5 Cal. It'll be something else,
new.
I think.
Okay. And usually when they're trying to support legacy things that are in the back end, the driver would be to try to encourage you to move on with the times. And so I suspect it won't be entry-level, cheapest chips kind of stuff. But we shall see. That information has not been made public yet, but they have released the list of different phones. There are some Cisco's in there and Polys and all sorts. So interesting, very interesting.
Okay, we'll watch the space.
Yeah.
Cool. So just moving into headsets, obviously everybody needs headsets now. These are all Yealink's coming out with quite a range of headsets, both from the SIP RJ9 connectors and also the USBs. What is exceptionally cool in the range, we've got some basic USB headsets, of course. They're priced really, really well, but these are sort of the cooler ones, I suppose. The 62 and the 63 that you see there, on the base it's got a button to push to bring that Teams client to the forward, and also if you had a handset and you are moving between a handset and the client, you can use that. The range is decked, so you get considerable range on those headsets as well. The super cool ones, which we're giving away this evening, is the Workstations, and these are they're just awesome. So the sale price, the retail is about $450 maybe. I don't normally work in retail pricing, so I'm just ishing. But you've got a USB hub in the base, multiple USB ports. You've got the touch screen, so you can have, you can move easily between a call on your mobile phone and your Teams client. You can run 2 different flavors on the device. So you can either run it in a UC mode or a Teams mode. The Teams mode works like a breeze. The UC mode needs a little bit of tweaking, but the Teams mode, they've nailed it. And then you've got the quick charger for your mobile. And as I said, it's decked to the headset. So, yeah, I mean, you can walk the whole garden with these things. I know, Lyndon, you've been using one as well at home, haven't you? Do you have anything you want to add on that one?
Yeah, well, you can water the tomatoes. Well, in Auckland, you've got it used to, well, I'm not sure if you still do, but you have to use a watering can and a hose. You couldn't just leave the sprinkler on. So yeah, seriously, I was watering the garden and talking to Julia on the phone. So that's about, it's not that far away really, it's about 60 meters. But when I was testing it, it was 75 meters up the road. I was still talking quite clearly on these decked phones. So it's very good.
And there's also the option for I don't know if you can see that on my code, there's also a busy light, which is a little optional extra there that you can buy for them. So you can use those at home to tell your teenagers to leave you in peace. So yeah, awesome product. Very, very excited about those. And just backing up what we said there, the long range, long talk time, and just the high density installation. So I do believe this will be a very good product because of all those home workers, where you've got your mobile sitting there, you're trying to manage calls from different devices, you want to walk around your house and do stuff. I mean, it's awesome. So I'm going to leave it to Paul later on. We are going to give away one of these units. So he'll work out how he does the draw and everything. Very exciting. And they're just going to touch on, nearing the end, on video solutions. So Yealink has a huge range of video solutions. Again, depending on whether you want BYOD, so your laptop's bringing the smarts into the room, or if you've got the Android devices, which tend to currently be sort of the huddle room type devices. And then there's a full range of MTR room systems. The new ones in the range are the A20 and the A30, and they're squarely competing against the Poly Studio range. And then we have the little VC210. I mean, I've got it, I don't know if you can see here, but it's just a little unit. It's got the Teams client built in, and that just clips on the top of your screen. It's got Wi-Fi. So there's a really neat range of products there available to suit all room sizes. Again, just another slide on that new A20. So these are, they're priced really competitively. You can buy them with or without the touch screen, but really I'd buy them with the touch screen. I think that people just like the touch screens, and you've got to think about the user experience and the features that are there. So we are seeing more, Lyndon, any comments? We're seeing more and more features coming through on these Android devices. They're a bit dumb sort of 6 months ago, but now they're almost on par with the room systems, aren't they? They're not far off.
Yes, a lot of people aren't aware of it, but Microsoft went down 2 streams. They went down Microsoft path for Microsoft Room Systems, and then they had a thing called Collaboration Bar, which is what you're looking at now, and that ran Android. And the idea one was Microsoft operating system Windows 10 had more features, and it still does, but it is catching up. The collaboration bars are catching up. But so if you are deploying this, I suppose the main things that we get caught out on is with the Microsoft Room system, the Microsoft Windows 10 operating system allows you to join as a WebEx guest, as a Zoom guest, and you cannot do that with your Android-based platform. So that's just something to be aware of if you've got a slightly unusual setup. Also, one of the things I've heard from the field is if you are looking at deploying Teams room systems out there, and you've got a few people who want to use lots and lots of different, I want to use my Google Hangouts, I want to use Zoom, and that sort of thing, and you're looking at your Teams room system and saying, oh, there's no way I can deploy a nice simple room system and yet support all those different platforms. What some companies have come up with, particularly large to medium ones who've got spare rooms, or not spare rooms, but they might put one room in which has got more of a BYOD environment where the propeller heads, if I can call us that, I'm including me, can walk in and use whatever they want in that room. They can plug into a USB cable and an HDMI and run their Google Hangouts or whatever the platform they're using. Yet you still roll out your standard Teams, which is supported by your IT environment in all the other rooms. So it gives you options. Instead of trying to skin the cat with all your room systems and make them all compatible with everything, you just do a couple rooms or one that supports propeller heads who want to use BYOD. Sorry, I went off track there, but it's something that's quite a nice idea to get around.
We get asked a lot about that,
that problem.
Particularly for the IT managers too, because then it gives them more of a control over what's happening.
Yeah. And you don't want people moving and unplugging cables.
Just to cover. Oh, yep.
When I got a question, it's a bad idea, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you win the headset. Just
no. Where did Lyndon go? Hey, so if I'm using the collaboration bar, because of course you can have the bar or you can have the bar with the touch panel, which gives you, of course, a lot more control. How would I manage if I only had the bar?
It comes with a remote, a little remote.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's actually 3 ways. You can have remote control.
Yeah.
You can just use, actually, if you deploy it with a touch panel, a touch screen, like your display has got a touch panel on it, like you can just touch the screen like I am now, and that can control it as well. So there's 3 options. But we've decided, I think, to bring them in just with the on the desk touch panel, like you see in that picture there, and that's Ethernet between. It appears over your LAN network, so you don't need to run an HDMI cable or a USB cable to it.
Okay.
USB.
Brilliant.
As my home is Ingram Micro Torbay, there's the remotes there. I don't know if can you see that clearly, Lyndon, or not really?
You can see it there now. Yep.
Yeah, so it's got a very simple remote. It's not like there's 1,000 buttons. It's just a very, very simple, basic remote there that comes with the A20. You've also got options for content sharing. There's wireless presenter content sharers, and there's the wired content sharing to add to these as options if you want to. Some of the stuff that's coming, we've got room scheduling panels. There's a bit more information about these from the Ignite event. Haven't got timelines on those yet. Currently, they're just saying May. And I guess in conclusion-ish, I was just wanting to, so with the Yealink range, there is a huge range. We can mix and match components. You can buy the cameras separately. It's just a flexible option. There's lots of options for audio as well. We've got ceiling mics. This is something we've been asked for a little bit. We've got wireless mics for the boardrooms. So, yeah.
And everything we've shown you there is Teams certified. So it's not like you, like particularly the ceiling mics, which is my personal favorite, is you don't have to cobble together USB mics from somewhere. They're a certified, team certified product, and they work easily with, you hold it up closer, Jules. It's quite large, yeah. And they'll do 40 square meters range pickup, and they allow you to get everything off the table, have a clean table, and they just pair over. You have to have if you've got a few of them, you have a dedicated Ethernet switch, and they just connect up to one of the camera solutions, whichever one you choose, pretty much.
We also have the larger 900 solution, which is really a camera hub, isn't it? So if you've got a site that's got existing audio, and like with councils, sometimes they've got those weird speaker audio systems, or you've got like a training room, you can just add the multi-camera solution to an existing audio solution. So we've got things like that in the range as well. I think that was really me. I put a slide in here about you talking to adding Zoom and things onto room systems. And then I think the other slide I've got after that was really around the options for Teams calling, which I don't know if you want to go on or not, Paul, you know, whether you've got your own SBCs or whether you use something like Access 4 as a hybrid, but that's kind of going off topic a bit. So that was really all I had. There's any questions? Oh, sorry, one other thing, all this gear's in my demo pool. So your techs, your salespeople, your end customers, if they want to try any of these devices, just get in touch with me. It works other than the VC systems, which we sign in and out of the warehouse because of their value. All the other gear just works on a trust system that you get the unit and I hunt you back down in a week or two or bill you for it. So you don't need POs to get the stock. And all the handsets come with 2 years warranty on them, because we're just not seeing any issues with faults. So we've increased it up to 2 years on all those Microsoft handsets. That's me.
Quick question, Julie.
Yes, Paul.
What's the warranty on the headsets? Also 2 years?
2 years, yeah.
Okay. And the process of replacing something if in the event that it should go faulty?
Yeah, so Yealink have a 0.3% fault rate, which is actually really, really low. And most of our returns we see in country tend to be customers changing their minds. And if you've come from the SIP world, you'll know that Yealink's pretty good and they've got a good product. It just works through the normal Ingram micro process. So we do have to log the faults, and that's for everybody, because if we get too many faults, then we've got to start putting up prices and all sorts of things. So yes, you need to raise a ticket. We can help you with that. Then we're aware of any issues. We can see if we can resolve it. And then we just send you out a forward replacement unit.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Much appreciated. So just so that I'm clear, did I hear you correctly? You have a prize for this evening.
Yeah. The new, the Workstation, which is very cool. I'm still trying to get this product into New Zealand. It's causing a little bit of pain getting the product in. So you're going to win it, and you'll probably get it in about 3 weeks, but it is worth waiting for. So, yeah, I don't know how you want to do that. I'm going to leave that to you, Paul. You'll have some busy way to do the draw. Okay, I knew you.
I have a plan. So watch this space. I'm going to steal your. Thank you, guys. That was really good.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. That's. Let me give you a little sentiment over there. Very good.
Should I stop presenting? Yeah.
There, you don't even have to worry about stopping, because I'm just going to steal your session anyway. So
such power.
Yeah, you know what it is. The problem though is with great power, you know what I'm going to say, it comes with great responsibility. Right. So speaking of great responsibility, I'm going to get into some of the news and things that have been happening, and there's been some stuff that's so fresh I haven't even documented it yet, so that's okay. We'll go through that as we go. First things first, if you are using Skype for Business Online, you do not have a lot of time left to move to Teams. 31st of July this year, that's tombstone date. That's when it's all over. And I want to show you something. You see there? Not only will it stop support, but you will no longer be able to access Skype for Business Online from the 31st of July. That's pretty big. That's huge. And so, I mean, Microsoft have been telling us about this for nearly 2 years, right? So we don't really have any excuse for not keeping up with it. Of course, you know what the plan is. The plan is move to Teams. And with that in mind, you won't believe it, but I'm still finding organizations who don't quite get the value yet. And it's true. I mean, if you're not been embedded in it and you haven't actually seen the power, then clearly it will be a problem, right? So you must transition before the 31st of July if you're Skype for Business Online. What about Skype for Business Server, the on-prem components? That's not going anywhere yet. There have been rumors that have been untrue. I like the shirt, by the way, Julie. I just realized. There have been rumors that Skype for Business Server is going to get deprecated, it's the end of life, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, whatever. That's not true. And even though I've heard it from some Microsoft folk, it was followed up with, oh, there will be a Skype for Business Server 2022. That's right, it's been announced. There will be a new version next year. And I mean, they announced in 2010 that there will be no more Exchange on-prem solutions. And where are we now? 2019's already aged, and the next version's in the making. What the heck? So it just shows you there might be dreams and aspirations to get rid of on-prem stuff, but the reality is when you've got the likes of KPMG and other really big organizations going, yeah, no, we're not doing that, Microsoft quickly goes, yeah, well, we're just testing the market. We've changed our mind. And so that's exactly what will happen. Watch this space. I don't think retiring Skype for Business Server is going to be a massive hurry up and get it done kind of thing. It's way more complicated than Exchange, and Exchange is still there, right? So here's a few things that have come out, and this is kind of stuff that's arrived in the last few months. And Microsoft have been quiet about some of these things, and so you don't always get that sort of noise coming through, right? So a little while ago, Microsoft introduced something called a shared calendar. Now, typically, when you click on the little calendar icon in Teams, it's just your calendar, right? If you've got view of other calendars, that sort of stuff, that's not there, you know. So why? Why have they created this shared calendar? It's about being able to schedule something across a team of people in a central place, right? So it allows you to go back, and if you add people to that shared calendar, what's great about it is no one actually owns the calendar. The calendar is owned by a channel. So the channel is a workflow, perhaps. Perhaps it's a project that's doing bits and pieces. Maybe it's onboarding. Maybe it's adoption and change. But the calendar belongs to that channel. And so when you schedule out meetings, you add people to that, and they get that, and it gets pushed out. So that's really where they're coming from. And they're adding more things like a shared or a channel calendar. For instance, they've announced, it's been out for a while, but they've made it formal yesterday, that you can now, very soon, you can actually add a DDI to a channel, and you can create kind of a call group where if you're a member of that channel, the call comes in and you can create some kind of hunting and, you know, that sort of stuff. So Microsoft's kind of thinking out of the box here. They're trying to find new ways to empower the idea of teams and channels. So it's really exciting to see, actually, and we haven't even started to digest all the things we can do yet. So very, very cool. Now, one of the things that I found when you're running a channel calendar is when you record meetings, you find them in the Files tab within the channel, which is handy. It's nice and easy. Normally, when you're recording a meeting, you find them within the chat. So you've got to go back to chat and you find them in there within the calendar entry, and that's okay. But in my mind, I would have thought, well, certainly it's a file, right? And finally, it's pitching up in the files area. So I quite like that. That's one of the new things that's come up. One of the others is breakout rooms. Wow. I use a lot of breakout rooms. And dare I say, I've been using breakout rooms pretty heavily for at least the last year. And they were not Microsoft breakout rooms because Microsoft breakout rooms are brand new. Brand new meaning, I think late December, maybe early January. I forget when they actually hit the market. And they come with some limitations. Now, I've been using the alternative to this, which is from a breakout room perspective, which is the Zoom rooms, right? Well, not Room so much, but the Zoom breakout room. So I'm very familiar with how that works. And when you look at this over here, you can kind of see how Microsoft's gone, so what are these things supposed to do? And they've gone, okay, we get it. And they started adding features. Now, there are some things missing here when you compare them to Zoom rooms, but there are some things in here that are really cool. So, for instance, you have to be an organizer to be able to spin off the breakout room. So a breakout room, if you don't know what it is, it's like a meeting like this, and we decide, hey, look, there's 20 of us. Let's create 4 spin-off rooms and they will go off and have little discussions, little squirrel discussions, and then come back and meet the main room. It works really well in schooling environments. Teachers love it when they're creating these little project groups and so on. And I actually had a chat to a CEO earlier today, and they were going, I must have this. This is how we use it. And they had a use case. They would go and discuss projects and things in a similar way for a time and then come back. And that's very powerful. And so, when you look at how they've done it, you find that it's pretty powerful. It's almost similar to how Zoom does it. Zoom doesn't have organizers. They instead have hosts. And that was a problem for me with Zoom, is that your licensing is based on a per organizer basis. One organizer, about $20 to $23 a month. More than one, the next level up is 10. And now we're talking about hundreds. There's no gap in between, which is a real problem when you're trying to manage things in a managed way. What they've done now is Zoom uses the idea of organizers and hosts. And a host is kind of a co-organizer, somebody who helps you, in their case. So they've got hosts and co-hosts, right? And Microsoft, it's an organizer. So they haven't quite gotten onto the assistant of an organizer yet. You can see the little bit of a lag over there, but they'll get there. This idea of moving participants to rooms and that sort of stuff, that's baked in both platforms, no problem at all. You can rename rooms. What I really like about the Microsoft Teams iteration of Breakout Rooms is you can grab people and you can move them during Breakout Rooms. I can take Lyndon and move him to a different room, maybe because he's been really smart or disruptive, who knows. And you can jiggle things around. It's empty, man. That's the problem. And so you've got all these really cool use cases. Now, I will be very soon pushing out a request on probably LinkedIn and Twitter, where I'm going to ask people for feedback on Breakout Rooms, how they use them, what are the challenges, what are the benefits. And the reason is because I've been asked to do a session at Teams Day Online about Breakout Rooms. And I want to focus on sort of the education sector, because that seems to be where it's actually spurned from. And so it'll be interesting to see. So if you have any cool hacks, ideas, wishes for Breakout Rooms, I'm all ears. Hit me up after this. This is an awesome little bit of code that was there, a little app called Approvals, right? Now, one of the things I've not done is I haven't clicked share my media. So I'm just going to stop the share for a moment, restart it, and I will just include media. So bear with me. Here we go. We're back. Thank you very much. And I'm going to share this with you. This is the best way to actually tell you what this is. It's just to show you. Have a look at this.
From project proposals to client agreements, you need these requests approved. Approvals in Microsoft Teams is your hub to request, view, and manage all your approvals, including ones from SharePoint, Power Automate, Microsoft Dynamics 365, and more. In Teams, go to Approvals and select New Approval Request. Add details, then send it out. Approvers can sign off on a request right from a chat. Whether you need a client discount, an expense report, or a vacation request approved, manage it all with Approvals in Teams.
Right, Approvals. Now, we've been using Approvals without the application, just as a form with a flow in the back end, or Power Automate. And I was pleasantly surprised that those are automatically drawn into the Approvals landscape, which was cool. So once I pinned the Approvals app, I could go back and at the organization where I am, we use it for change control for a start. On the back of the launch of Approvals, I've rung the bell and go, guys, this is crazy. We should do all our claims. We should do even our leave requests. There's so much we can do in this. And because it's an app within Teams, you can just clip it onto your mobile device and off you go. And you've got access to approve things on the fly anytime. It's just so powerful. It certainly is something that I'm looking at and going, this is going to be huge going forward. One of the other areas that I've found that is in the new space that's been pretty handy is the Tasks app. Now, again, perhaps you've been using Tasks for a while, Perhaps you are one of those guys who use to do, or gals who used to do in the past. And to do is pretty powerful. I used to do to keep myself on, reminders and things of stuff to do. And maybe even you've used a lot of Planner. Planner is pretty powerful. I use Planner all the time. That's how I keep track of projects and things that I need to get assigned resources to and so on. So what's happened with tasks is they've kind of gone and fudged them all together. So if you add something into do, it pops up in Planner. And if you add something in Planner, it pops up into do and in tasks. And it is all just together. So it's really cool. And what's really new is you can now have company-wide tasks. Think of things like reminding people to submit annual leave or, that sort of thing. So that's pretty cool. I do have a little gripe when it comes to this idea of tasks. And the gripe is that when you're on the desktop, it used to be called Planner, and now it's currently called Tasks by Planner and To Do. That's just because they couldn't come up with a longer name for now. But very, very soon, it's going to be rebranded and just be called Tasks. This pause is not for emphasis. I'm just shocked. I can't believe that. Guess what it's been called in the mobile client? It's been called Tasks from day one, and it still is. This is just an example of people perhaps not talking to each other. Oh, I digress. You can see over here my screenshot, Tasks by Planner and To Do. Great, brilliant. Thanks, guys. Good stuff. It's very powerful, though, and I love how I don't have to go to Do or somewhere else. It's all just baked in. I've pinned the app on my client, and there it is, and I can quickly come in here and see everything, even stuff that's assigned to me by others, I can pick up from here. That is cool. I do like that. This is an interesting one. I do use Google from time to time, for, mostly for private emails or for, I've got some Android devices that I like to play with, and many of them require a Google account, and so I use that. Now, what is this about? Well, this is about scheduling Teams meetings from your Google Calendar. That's actually what it is about in a nutshell. So what we're looking at here is actually my personal Gmail account. And all I've done over here is I've gone to that little plus button. And when you go there, you've got a whole bunch of apps you can install to expand your calendar. And one of them is Microsoft Teams for meetings. And so I've added that. And so it's popped up over there on the sidebar. And that allows me now to schedule Microsoft Teams meetings straight from a Google Calendar. That's pretty cool. At the moment, there's still a little issue that when you're in the meeting, it doesn't actually show the title of the meeting. It just says it's a Teams meeting. So I guess you could say the pass-through of that information hasn't been sorted out yet. It's a little bit odd, though, to see Google and Microsoft playing nice. It's been a long time since I've seen a little bit of synergy between the two. So it's nice to see. And certainly I've seen some organizations that are big time on Google, but they really like the meeting spaces in Teams. And so you can see why Microsoft's kind of gone, okay, we see the idea, and we're going to plug that. We're going to find a way to bring that together. This is what I've been playing with in this meeting. I keep on mucking around with these. I quite like it. I don't know about you, but I spend, I don't know, man, 4 to 6 hours a day staring at my screen talking to a camera. It's pretty hard, man. It's a hard slog, eh? And if you're feeling sorry for me, yeah, that's cool. I feel sorry for myself. It gets really tough. And so it's very handy when people give me a bit of a response and I feel like the love's coming through and I'm just not, everyone's on mute and it's just me and my PowerPoint, and it gets lonely out here, So occasionally it's nice to see some love and some support, and you'll notice that within this area, the raise hand was the first piece that came out, and I think that was brilliant. That was really clever. And what I like, thanks, Chris. And what I loved about the raise hand feature is you could have, at the moment, 350 people in a meeting like this, and you go, anybody got a question? And 20 people unmute themselves and try and talk. It's nuts. So what I do is just go, guys, just use the digital raise hand. I've noticed Zoom's got a heads up on this. They now have, bear with me, they now have multiple colors for hands. So if you're of a darker complexion or a lighter complexion, you can change the hand to suit. If you're of the confused complexion, you can go with blue. It's very cool. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Yeah, if you're from The Simpsons, blue works very well. Now, there's no negative ones here. And that's because I too have emotions, right? If there were eggs in here or thumbs down or boos, I probably wouldn't be doing this anymore. But yeah, they're there. And I've noticed they're not quite rolled out to all the Mac clients yet, but they do come out. So that, the Mac client is slightly behind on some of the features, but they will come out. Here's a little pro tip. Control-Shift-K is quickly toggle, raise your hand, lower your hand. So always handy to know, right? Oh, right, that's what's new from a what's actually released GA perspective. What's new from a purpose of Ignite? Oh my goodness, there's so much cool stuff. But for New Zealand, the biggest news about what's just been released is the fact that, as Lyndon said on LinkedIn, we have a new telco on the block, and it's called Microsoft. So Microsoft has just announced by the end of July, they would have rolled out the ability to have Microsoft provide your telco services, so your DDIs and your calling, straight from 365. I guess it was a no-brainer that this was coming anyway, and it's because they've got data centers that they've announced now in New Zealand and that sort of thing. So it kind of makes sense. It's bad news if you're a telco and you've invested heavily in direct routing and in tidying that up, because you're now competing with Microsoft. They've made it really easy. So some of the stuff that I struggle with from a, hey, it's really easy perspective, because I make money when things are complex, right? Not when things are easy. So I like things to be complicated. But what is complicated about direct routing today is that you go to a telco, they sell you some direct routing. There's a lot of them out there that do it, and they do it well. But the numbers that you migrate to Teams, you can't actually manage online. You have to manage them in PowerShell. And that's just nasty. That's nasty. And that's why I've written tools like Luria, which you can get off GitHub, to try and manage all that and try and see it and surface it all together, right? So from my perspective, when Microsoft comes to the party and goes, you know what, we're just going to do it ourselves. They've already pointed out that they're going to pull all of their bits and pieces straight into the admin portal. But they've also got their Connect series that they're doing. And again, they only have a select group of telcos today. In New Zealand, I'm trying to think, Pure IP is technically not in New Zealand because they resold with a partnership with Cordia. They're the closest we got. But there are many organized, NTT's in there as well. So those guys they're already partners, and they've been included in that circle of trust where Microsoft will allow them to bring their numbers in for full management. So I guess it means the writing's on the wall if you're a telco and you're not on that list. I would say to some extent. But again, we're talking about basic calling here. As soon as you need a contact center, or you need to glue in some elevator phones, or you've got some fancy bits and pieces in the back end that need to be connected, then you need to talk. That's complex. Come talk to me. I can help you with that. But if you're just looking for vanilla calling, Microsoft's going to be doing that, and they're going to be competing hard. Don't know what the pricing looks like yet, so we shall see. There are other options in New Zealand as well. Lyndon, you spoke earlier about XS4. XS4 is actually very clever in that they allow you to glue the likes of traditional telephony and Teams together in a single backend. That's smart, and that's not going to come from Microsoft in the cloud. And it's probably not going to come from any of those Connect telcos either, because they want simple, easy, because that's the way they make money, right? Numbers. I've actually gone off this page. So that's okay. So that's the biggest announcement from Ignite so far. There are some other really, really cool ones that I've been kind of looking at going, oh, this is going to be interesting. And there's some stuff around guest access. Very soon, you'll be able to have what they call shared channels. So instead of inviting you as a guest, and you now have a guest account and you've got your real account, it's all confusing because you've got all these different guests, and they'll just be able to do a share channel. Boom, done. There are going to be limitations. It's not going to have the same power as a guest account, but we shall see as it rolls out how that's going to be of use to us. And then, like I said, they're putting DDIs on channels as well, which will, again, add value and add functionality right there. There are a few others, but until I've gone and spent the time to digest everything, they're not even jumping to mind. I want to talk about hybrid meetings a bit, unless there's a question out there before I flip over to hybrid meetings. This is an online meeting. This is not a hybrid meeting. What we did, was it last week, Julie? It was last week, wasn't it? What we did last week in Auckland was a hybrid meeting. There was a few of us in Microsoft doing bits and pieces, and there was a bunch of us online. And hybrid meetings are really hard. They're really hard, and I'll tell you why. As we go along with hybrid meetings, we find that, when you're doing a hybrid meeting and you're in a meeting room with a select few people, you're making eye contact with them. And in our heads, we're automatically making eye contact with them. And we often tend to forget about the online people. It happens. Even though you may have way more value for folks who are actually, connecting from online. But at the same time, there are tool differences. There are like in a room, you can raise your hand. Online, you've got to use features like the raise hand feature. So you've got to find a hybrid meeting is a blend between in-person and online. And sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes it works really well. And so it's important to know, when can a meeting be hybrid, when can it be online, and when must it be in person? Because that's kind of, that's important stuff. If I'm trying to do something that should be in person online, I'm not going to get the same buy-in. For instance, I'll take this meeting right now. Are you ready for it? So I've got two people I absolutely know are engaged, right? And how is that possible? Well, they got their video on. I've got their eye contact right in front of me, and I can see they're looking. Thank you, Ingram Micro. Yay! Now, for the rest of you, I don't actually know. You're having your dinner. You're playing with a dog. I don't know. Can you see the problem? If we're in a meeting room together, here he goes, off to the dog. But if we're in a meeting room together, I have the ability to see what you're up to. You're busy texting on your phone, what's going on. In hybrid, it's really difficult. I'm not saying you're not paying attention. What I'm saying is it's really difficult to gauge, right? So looking at our hybrid meetings, like I said, we're talking about face meetings, we're talking about virtual meetings, and hybrid's kind of like this weird space in between. I almost want to call it the COVID space, because we've been driven there, haven't we? We've been driven to this world where, things are just crazy. And dare I say, this is the beginning of the end. I don't think we're ever going back. Hybrid is the future. You're going to find people who will meet. I have hybrid meetings all the time where some people just can't make it to the office. And we're even now considering employing people outside of the region, just because with hybrid meetings you can. But there are limitations.
Actually, I had one today. Like, I run a session with new salespeople, and Paul, I normally use as a whiteboard session. It's like a free-flying whiteboard session with a real whiteboard and this, or maybe I use a Service Hub. But today I had to do it online, and even though the whiteboard in Microsoft is I'm not that experienced with it, doing it on my computer with a mouse. Oh, that was a mission.
Yeah. We certainly, Julie's just put in the chat over there that it wasn't exceptionally well done last week, and that's true. What I've found, speaking to different people who do hybrid meetings, is it takes time to try and work out the bugs and with the best way to do it. That's it.
Sorry, I was just so last week what I found difficult is I was standing up presenting, and there was a room of people in front of me, and there were these unknowns that were online. Maybe it's easier doing a hybrid meeting if you're sitting, because you're more, I don't know, I think it would work better if you're actually sitting at a boardroom doing a hybrid meeting than actually trying to present with a screen behind you doing a hybrid meeting.
I love those comments. You know why? Guess what was announced at Ignite? So at the moment, you can do two types of meetings from Teams, right? You can do a Teams meeting, or you can do a live meeting, which is that streaming sort of thing. There's a new version coming called Webinar, right? And it's got a whole bunch of extra stuff in there. One of the things that caught my eye was a screenshot where they put everybody on sort of a film strip, and everyone in the meeting has a little emoticon. It's actually your video, right? And they've taken the smarts. Like, if you think about me now, I've got my image and I've got this background that's cut out. But what they do is they pull that background out and make it black. And so what they can do is they can line 20, 30 of us along a screen, and we'll see what else they do with it. But now I've got visibility and eye contact of everyone. It is a challenge. I totally agree. Not being able to see people and not being aware of, hey, the board's behind you. In fact, I didn't even, there was a time when people went out the room last week, and in my head, there was no one there, and I was having a conversation, and then for a moment I thought, hey, I need to realize there are people online here. I might be having a private conversation and potentially causing a bit of ruckus over here. So I agree. Big learning curve.
I wonder, Paul, if that ties into some of the hardware, because some of the hardware we've got coming through, like these new speakers, have AI built into them when they're actually recognizing the different people within the meeting and identifying them. So I wonder if that will lead into then they each get their own little video picture or something like that.
Yeah, I tell you what, Microsoft has not long ago announced this concept of hybrid meetings, which means it's on the radar. And for me, that's good. That means we're going to start seeing some technology enhancements to address that, to fix that, and to make it sort of more powerful. And I totally agree. Some of the cameras that do things like people counting and all that kind of stuff, really, really cool. And it doesn't take too much or too big a stretch of the imagination to just push it over. If we look at the hybrid meetings, I mean, that's pretty straightforward. When we look at things like tools, when you have an in-person meeting, there are some tools you potentially don't have but don't need. But at the same time, sometimes I have meetings in the office with my team, and I'll tell them, hey, guys, we're making this a team meeting. And I go, why? I say, well, I want to share our resource calendar. I want us to talk to the resource calendar. And yes, sure, I can share it up to a Surface Hub, and we can all sit around a Surface Hub. But there's too many of us to get around a Surface Hub comfortably. And so this way I can share it and everybody gets a good view and we can all contribute accordingly. And so, it's just being aware of how that all fits together. This is quite interesting. This is something I pulled off Microsoft's site, actually. So they say in person, when it's important to build and maintain relationships. Don't you agree that, I don't know, humans, it's a lot harder to build relationships over a camera, right? By the way, that's why long-distance relationships don't last. Just saying. So, that personal time, it does make a difference. Or when there's a really complex subject, it can be hard. If I can't look you in the eyes and see whether you're actually grasping things, it gets really tough. And if you turn your camera off, it's even harder. So when we're in a meeting, if I explain something to you and you get that, I call it that offline look. You kind of sort of stare up into the air. Okay, that didn't sync. I'm going to have to find another angle for that. Yeah, that's the one. Thanks, Julie. Well, all remote, it's pretty easy when the audience is all over the place. That's great, right? So, I mean, it's the only way to meet. And we're not even talking about things like, COVID. So, obviously. And when we're viewing stuff like broadcast type stuff, state of the nation stuff, you can view at your own time. We're not particularly worried about feedback anyway, so that's all good. And you can do that all remote pretty easy. And then, of course, you've got your hybrid space. I appreciate your comments, Yvonne. I'm just looking at the comments from you. I'm trying to multitask here, right? Now, bear in mind, I am of the male orientation, so I do have challenges. I'm just quickly reading that. Yeah, I agree. Hybrid meetings are a test of how people engage, because when you're in a meeting like this, it's really hard to resist reading email or doing something else, right? And at the same time, if you're in a meeting like this, I always tell my team, we have a mantra or a policy in-house. I tell my team, when we're having a meeting in Teams, cameras on, unless you have a valid reason, and I want to know that reason up front. So you've got to make an excuse for why your camera's not on. That's how we do it. And it's just to try and keep people more engaged, as opposed to, here's one more meeting I don't really want to be in, and so I'm just going to carry on with my little side project. And I agree as well with the other comment there that you have, Yvonne, around body language, language tone, that sort of stuff. You just cannot get the same level of engagement, when you're in a face-to-face scenario. So it's hard. And we try to make up for that with cameras and so on, right? It's pretty important. Very good. Yeah, I actually have some. So obviously there's a whole bunch of new cameras and things from Julie and the team, and I guess probably world's most popular webcam is probably the Logitech brand in general, and that's just because they just easy, cheap, and cheerful, and all that kind of stuff. They've got some high-end ones too, of course. But I had a real problem when COVID lockdown started. I had people hitting me up from all over the place. Do you have a spare webcam? That's what was happening. Everybody wanted a spare webcam. Now, where I'm sitting at the moment, I've got a few webcams here, but I have to because I can't afford for one to fail. But that said, they were so hard to get. There was back orders and all sorts. It's because organizations appreciate. Have you filled that now, Julie? Back order sorted? You got lots of stock now.
Yeah, no, there is lots of stock, and we saw it across headsets as well. Our sales of Jabra headsets went through the roof, and so did our Logitech USB cameras, just because we had stock. But of course now all the vendors have got cameras. But a comment there would be the quality of cameras. Did you find, like through COVID, you'd get people really important in the New Zealand universe, and they'd have the shittiest camera, and you'd think, oh my goodness. So I think we're starting to see people maybe now looking at the quality of their cameras, because that does make a huge difference for what other people are saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and when you're using something like an 84-inch Surface Hub, and I'm going, Julie, I've got you on a Surface Hub here, and you're larger than life, and let me just say that your camera needs some work.
Be kind.
yeah. Well, I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of what we were seeing as well. And in my case, I mean, at the moment, my weakest camera is the one built into my laptop, and the lid's closed at the moment. I do not like using that camera at all. And it's true that as you look at higher end cameras, when you're looking at 720p and up, we are talking about spending a few dollars. And that's the challenge. I mean, you start looking at the thing, things like 4K cameras, you start getting up to close to $1,000 now. So it can get quite pricey.
So if I just changed mine to my lounge, then you see, there's a bit of.
I like your garden, by the way. Nice garden.
Thanks, Paul. But yeah, you do get that difference in the quality with the cameras.
Absolutely. So we saw massive support requests for home Wi-Fi. Oh my goodness, it was huge. My Wi-Fi sucks. Why is my camera quality bad? Why is this? Why, and it just kept on going. But yeah, and it all ends up affecting the perceived sort of experience. And I actually had a customer who I've been speaking to and helping with a migration for the last few months. And they said to me that they called BS when I said, you need certified devices. They were one of those guys who go, nah, the microphone and speakers built into the laptop's fine. And I made a comment at the time, and I said to them, what I have noticed is when you're on poor quality equipment, the audio is not so good, the camera's not so good. For me, being in meetings, 4, 5, 6 hours a day, I find that I'm more fatigued. It's weird, but I do. And they call that rubbish. And just recently, they've come back and ordered a whole bunch of gear. So I take it they've changed their mind on that. And it's just, it's harder to imagine watching a TV screen and there's a little bit of snow all the time. It's hard. It hurts. So you get the idea, right? Just coming back to the hybrid meetings, obviously there's some basics, right? If you're in a hybrid meeting, you need to be aware, what are you sharing? Do you want people to contribute? Is there a whiteboard session? And if the whiteboard session's on the wall, like in your case, Lyndon, how do you pull the people online in as well? Or if it's an online whiteboard, how do you pull that Don Cat, hey? How do you pull the people that are in the room back in? So you've got to think about these things, right? And then there's all the people who are not actually part of your organization, perhaps, and they have limited view as well. Now, hybrid meetings are a massive challenge. Before I go to that Q&A slide, I would like to know from those of you who are here, do you have 3 questions? 1, do you have a hack that makes hybrid meetings super cool, right? I do have one, and he's just fallen. There he is. Here's my hack. So I know. Bear with me. Let me explain. This is, when you turn him around, it's also great for cleaning my iPad screen. But this little guy usually sits on top of my camera. My son knocked him off just before this meeting. And he's to remind me where to look. So he usually sits up there. There you go. And now I know to look at him when I'm talking to you. Why? So that for your experience, it feels like I'm looking you in the eyes, right? Do you see what I'm saying? It gives that little, yeah. So that's my little hack. I'd like to hear from you. Do you have any little tips, tricks, hacks, bear bugs, things that really annoy you, things you wish were better. I'm open ears. We'd love to hear from you. Please don't leave me hanging. James, go on. What's your hack?
Well, not a hack. It's a bugbear, which is, if you have a room full of people, and they're in this room, and someone asks a question, obviously, if you're in the room, you can hear them, right? But if we're all sitting online and you're presenting at a podium, and your audio will probably not be too bad, but someone in the audience puts up their hands to ask a question, just like I've done, and that won't really be, unless you can have a roaming mic that you sort of walk down and you say, hey, then you won't really pick up what they have to say at all.
Yeah. So what do you reckon? I'll just pitch an idea. Would an audio alert, a ping or something, to make it clear that somebody online's raised their hand, would that be of any use?
You can just, you imagine a talk show or something, someone will often walk a mic up and say, can you just repeat that question? And I think you're being a bit more formal about it and saying, but, we don't have a mic that's jacked into a Teams meeting right now that you can kind of do that with. So, imagine that this meeting was being set up in a meeting room. I'll be presenting and I'll come through the audio okay, I guess, but someone in the room, none of us would hear.
Because they're too far away. I got you. So it's actually a good point. It's one of the things remember the days when we used to go to big sort of, auditoriums and have conversations, and especially Ignite with Microsoft, their trainers or their speakers are trained to repeat the question. I don't know if you remember. They're really good at it. And it was always very standout for me. They'd always go, the question is, and they'll repeat it. And it's got two purposes. One is it allows everybody who's connected to listen. And two, I guess three, it ends up in the recording as well because they're always recording. But three, it allows them to reword the question to make sure that they've got it right before answering it. I always thought that was brilliant. And I agree with you. So those of you who perhaps are from a vendor perspective, one thing, I've actually bought a little cheap version of this myself, which is it's a lapel mic, and I've got the Britney Spears version as well, if you must. But it just clips onto my shirt, and it plugs into my PC. So I use that when we do our State of the Nation meetings at my company, and I get the GM to clip that on. But all it does is it allows him to walk around and talk and everyone hears. I've got a second one which we pass around for that purpose, but it's not certified hardware. I had to put in some amplifiers. It's a nightmare to get it going, right? It would be really nice if there was something out of the box for that. That'd be cool. Yeah, I'm sure Lyndon's going to go digging in the box now.
Yeah, I get that question once a week.
Okay, cool.
And I'm not, for a change, I'm not exaggerating. I'd get that question from people, and often I just come back to what you said earlier, like even in a presentation, okay, the presenter repronounces the question out and says, the question from Paul was, what's the weather going to be like tomorrow? And the weather's going to be beautiful, otherwise it gets, sometimes you're trying to find a solution, trying to find microphones and all this cost and the range problems we have. And then there's feedback with other microphones in the room. So I know. That's why I do like the ceiling mics option, but the ceiling mic does have issues if you've got some guy at the back eating chips. Then you've got to mute him. But yeah, I've got a couple little hacks actually. I discovered 2 hacks today, which I should know already, and I feel like I haven't used Teams enough lately, or maybe it's evolved. First off, I didn't know this, and I'm really hoping at least one person on this call doesn't know this, and they'll take it away. If you're talking like this and all the little pictures are along the bottom there, well, most of them there's no pictures, but I want to see your face in full screen. If I click on the little picture at the bottom once, boom, now I've got Paul and Julie and big screen, and it minimizes your slide deck into the bottom. So because I've read your slide deck, I don't need to see it anymore, but I want to see your face. Just click once on a head at the bottom, and it's actually quite nice because you see the facial expression. The other one...
Julie thinks that's creepy. I can just see it on her face.
And the last one is I did a whiteboard session today. And on the whiteboard session, what we were able to do is we used the whiteboard app on your laptop or on your PC, and we shared that. And I invited in the other person. So I used the whiteboard on there, and at the same time, I was sharing my desktop and sharing websites as well. So we were able to share 2 media at the same time: a whiteboard plus a website or whatever information I was sharing. And it was mainly pictures we were Googling and trying to find information. Yeah, it was very cool.
That's cool, eh? Those are good tips. Yeah. Now, Chris, I know you have your hand up for a while. I hope your arm's not too tired. Can we? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, for sure. So just going back to hybrid meetings and thoughts there. So I've managed 2 teams where some of my team is located, locally, and then some is remote. So, and we were running an agile, so lots and lots of meetings every day. And this is going back a few years. So really, for us, we had the choice of saying, well, remote team members are not second-class citizens, so we went all remote as our option there. But when you've got teams sitting around you, right? Like I would have 3 staff members around me and then a couple remote. You get on meetings every day, and then microphones start, daisy chaining across each other, so you have to do this mute dance, and then the next step there is you're back in a room trying to have these hybrid meetings. Now, one of the things that I found was a weakness of doing meetings in that way, and I'm interested to sort of hear other people's experiences around this, is it's a lot more it's very easy, like you were talking about body language in a room, it's very easy to see people are paying attention, agree, disagree, you get that sort of instant nonverbal feedback, and it's very difficult to get that with the people who are online, unless you're physically like looking at your your service hub or display screen or whatever. And one of the things that we ended up doing, this was inspired by Facebook Live, because on Facebook Live you can do your sort of emoji reacts, and they'll just sort of like float up across the screen. We actually got our remote team members to, as they were listening and sort of responding, even just respond with emoji reacts in the chat. Now, it wasn't as good or developed as the Facebook Live feature, but it allowed us to sort of, I had a particularly grouchy person remote, and it was excellent because, I'd see these red-faced emojis popped up, and it sort of gave a bit of instant feedback. So just an idea there. I think it would be cool to have some more options that are quite visible for the speaker. Like I know you talked earlier about not even just the show of hands, but there was a heart and a laughing emoji and that sort of thing. But it'd be really good to have that in such a way, either with a sound like we talked about earlier, or something that floats up across the screen so you can see it.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good comments, and I agree. They're called sentiment. I think they're called sentiment emoticons.
Yep.
4 of them are there. There'll be more. I'm pretty sure there'll be more. So good comments. Yeah. And when I get into my next little private chat with the boys at Microsoft, I'll have a little listen to see where that's going. James, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say on that, I have seen that idea work quite well with like a voting. Unfortunately, everyone would have to they logged into like a mobile phone to vote, but the presenter had on their screen, what are we going to talk about next? So this is a way to kind of, you can't poll virtual people, they're outside. So you said A, B, or C. And they actually then talked about that section of the slide deck or whatever. So it was kind of a way to kind of, get this sort of interaction. It's a shame there's not a poll in. I'd love there to be a poll in Teams, right? That would be fantastic. Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah, like that.
Yeah. Good idea.
So, Teams does have a poll function, but it's baked into the Teams and channels, right? So, I agree with you. So. Here's how I usually do it, just looking at my share over there. I go and prepare a form. So actually, you've actually made me remember that I still wanted to show this slide. So we run our meetups every last Thursday of the month, usually in Auckland. And of course, when I'm traveling, I try to, if I am in Christchurch or I am in Wellington, I try to regurgitate those or at least have a look at what else. And for me, it's about meeting people and I love people, and that's really where it has got value. But in this case, this has got a little questionnaire in the back, and I think there's 3 or 4 questions just about topics that you're interested in and that sort of thing. So if you wanted to scan that straight off the screen, that'd be good. And I'll be quite happy to review those. No strings attached, of course. But yeah, I appreciate those comments. Those are good comments. This is how, by the way, this is how Microsoft grows their product suite. Seriously, they talk to people. They use myself and other people who are MVPs, and we go around and try and collect our experiences, our feedback, and Microsoft listens. They listen. It's incredible. They've got so many people working on this. I'm sure you're all aware of Uservoice, where you can go in and make suggestions and vote for ideas and features and so on. They have a special sort of internal Uservoice for the MVP crowd, where we go in and we're known to be less soft. We're pretty direct. We say it how it is. And the vendors, like Julie and Lyndon, they know that I'm like that as well. If I like something, you'll know about it. If I don't like it, you'll know about it. If I think it could be better, I'm probably going to tell you. And it's just because, it's not because I'm trying to be blunt or anything. It's just because I really want to see it succeed, right? And so it's really exciting to see all of this stuff coming together. Our next session that we do have will break apart, and by that time we would have had the opportunity to see a little bit more about Vivo and a bunch of other things that have hit the market just recently, and we'll be able to really dig into those and talk a bit more, especially some of the stuff that's announced. A lot of it is announced now, but only to be released in the next 2 to 3 months. So when we have our next session, perhaps half of those things would have dropped. So really exciting, eh? Really cool to see. Are there any more thoughts or comments or bugbears, ideas? Because if there aren't, I'll move on to the more important aspect of things. Aha, right. So this is called the Wheel of Names, right? And I use this to help me. I used to ask a really hard question, but what would happen is the smart people would always win all the cool prizes. So that was very frustrating, eh? Because it meant I always missed out. But when you look at this here, just a quick check with all of you. I've removed, obviously, myself and Lyndon, sorry, mate. And Julie, I'd love to stick you in there, but, since you're providing the prize, let's not do that. Now, you guys can all see the names in there. I've had a quick look. Some of these names have dropped off the call, and that's just going to be, I'm trying to have a look at who they are. I can't actually tell without going through each one, which I'm not going to do. There is one here called NZ3 Test. Now, I don't know who you are. If you want to unmute yourself and just give me a name I can chuck in there. Yep, go for it.
Hey guys, it's Damon here from Pure IP.
From Pure IP. Sorry, what was your name?
Damon from Pure IP.
Damon, I know you. We've exchanged emails.
Look,
welcome,
sorry,
Damon.
I had a test account on my mobile. It was the first one that signed in.
That's all good, man. That's all good. Okay, so I've got you in there. I'm going to shuffle these around a little bit. And are you ready? Here we go. This is for, Julie, remind us. This is for what exactly?
The UC workstation, which you're going to have to wait a couple of weeks for.
I'm only seeing your QR code, mate. Is that
yeah?
Is that
we're
correct?
not seeing your.
Is that right? Oh, you son of a searing.
Yeah.
Thank you
You
for
only shared
telling me.
PowerPoint.
Oh, I didn't share the right. Yeah, thank you, Lyndon. Let's come over here. This is what you wanted to see, right?
I'm not even in there, so yeah.
Is that better?
We need to know it's fair.
I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just clicking shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Here we go. Boom. Are you ready? Let's see who is the winner. Oh!
Brutal.
Oh, James missed out, mate. Sorry. That's brutal. Wow.
So it is.
You've lost it again. It's off the screen.
Damon, you're still there, mate?
I am.
Excellent. Congratulations. You've just won yourself a really cool, funky-looking USB phone from Yealink.
Oh, thanks, guys. Maybe I could walk down and pick it up and see you guys at Ingram.
Yeah, because you're close by. You're literally around the corner, aren't you?
We are.
Yeah, I don't have one for you. You have to
That's
actually
all right.
just
After lockdown and coffee, we can catch up.
Excellent.
sure.
You know what? Actually, when that happens, can you guys send me a little notification? I'd love to come down and shake some hands and just get to meet the folks again. I'm suffering from lockdown syndrome or something, I suppose.
He needs
You
a picture for his LinkedIn profile.
A cheesy, yeah.
It's more for
A
Julie.
cheesy pic.
Yeah. For those of you who've joined, and especially if you've come in from Wellington, thank you so much for making the effort. Even though we really wanted to have this in person to share some war stories and just enjoy some association, get to know you better. James, awesome meeting you. Thank you so much for joining.
Great. Thank
and
you.
to all
Thanks.
of the rest of you, thank you so much. I promise next time I'm in Wellington, I'll make a noise so that we could do this in person. Promise. Excellent. Hey, thanks everyone. It's been great, and I'll give the rest of the 5 minutes left back to you so you can go get some dinner, spend some time with your families. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. That's great, mate. Really good.
Cheers, everyone.
Thank
See
you.
you tomorrow, Jules.